Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
How's everybody?
Trying to wind down for the year and it just is speeding up.
Let's see, I haven't heard from Rachel that she's not coming. Did she say she was coming or not? I can't remember.
Coming.
Maybe late? Well, let's go ahead and get started anyways. And Tim, thanks for joining us. So Tim has been recommended by our committee to take the position that Rachel is vacating in January. That will, just so you know, go before the commission next month. So
Thanks for having me. I'm good to be here.
thanks. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is the Parks and Trails Committee for December 14th, 4:30. Present is Connor, Sarah, Clay, Carol, Allison, and our guest is Tim Stevens. And so we'll go ahead and get started. First is the agenda review. Are there any changes to the agenda that I sent out?
None that I saw.
Okay, we'll stick with that then. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes, and if there are changes, we can discuss those?
Got some changes. They're tiny, but but I guess because it's on the public record. Just in about the trees being identified down at Mayor's Review Trail. I didn't meet with Mike. It was an email correspondence.
Communicated with them.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then it says dead trees will, it says like dead trees will be left. Sorry, I only have the note of my changes. So that's why I'm fumbling here a little bit. It's about other trees will be left, other dead trees will be left, or a lot of other would be left. And it was actually that they were going to leave as many dead trees as possible, even the ones that they were cutting down. So it was also tiny, but I thought worthwhile making that change while we're making changes. And then the last one was around.
Okay, wait a minute. Can we go back to that, Sarah, just so I can make the right correction?
And I popped the language into the chat too for that. Sarah.
Okay. So are you correct in the sentence that says, in reference to Shannon, he confirmed the trees are being removed for pedestrian safety with lots of other dead trees remaining?
Yeah, so it's
What
not
do you want it to say?
not other trees are remaining, that they will leave as many dead trees on the ground where possible. That was it. Remove limbs or whatever. So
Okay.
because there was controversy around the dead trees being removed altogether. I want to correctly reiterate what Shannon had communicated to us.
So we'll leave as many dead trees as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your next one? Sorry.
It was just a tense around a verb when we talked about, so it's second page in old business under the NOMO May report. So it's agreed to ask the city, last sentence, we agreed to ask the city when we met with them about 2022 priorities. Is that supposed to be met or meet? Yeah.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
That's
catch.
all.
Great. Any other changes?
I'll motion to approve.
Oh, okay, Sarah?
Yeah, based on those changes.
Sarah, motion to approve with those three changes. Is there a second? Clay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay. Thanks for that, Sarah. Okay, so the next thing, we have no new business.
Oh.
Our old business, the primary topic for tonight is the logo design. And you should all have gotten the latest version that we received from Megan. Clay, did you have anything you wanted to add on it? I can tell you what we had sent to her for comments after our last meeting. But I can tell you what her changes are too from this. We had talked about the leaf and we wanted it in trails instead of parks. We wanted it to look more like an A. It's a little bit squattier than the previous version. We talked about the ampersand. The last version was really truncated and we wanted the fuller ampersand. She added the mountain with the sun as an extension to the script on Livingston. And then she did a little bit with the colors. I think, Sarah, you're suggesting it had been no more than a couple of colors in the logo. So let me just open it up now. And maybe Clay, you can start. You've had a couple discussions with her. Well, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. You know, I guess at first glance, it didn't seem that much different, which I know is not really the goal, for some tweaks, but I did like the addition of the mountain range outline in the sun. I thought that the A in trails was still pretty similar to what it was before, but so, you know, to me, if there's issues reading it, it does seem to be pretty similar to what it was before in terms of it not looking so much like an A. So I don't know if others on the committee will have the same issue with it, but it seems to me that it's not that different. But yeah, I guess my overall impression was I had to think through what the changes were because they weren't that different. So I guess the next step would be to decide, do we want to take this as it is for now, or do we want to try some additional funding to try to get her to do something later on that's much different? So.
Other comments?
I like that she put some images on there so we could see it on a post or maybe on like a poster. And I like the simplicity of it and the color scheme. We had talked about making it more like natural or muted tones. So it wasn't, because we thought the yellow was going to be a little bit concerning to read on a sign. I feel like it would be like that circular one on the post in the image. It's really clear and it would be easy to pick up on, and you could see it probably from far away and be like, okay, that's a trailhead. And I think that's the goal, right? Is to just make it easy and recognizable so people can wayfind their way a little bit better. I do like the addition of the mountain off Livingston. And I don't know, I mean, I think that people's brains are really quick to like recognize a word. And so I don't think people are going to walk around going parks and trails. Like, I think that they're going to like just realize it's parks and trails. And so I don't know if we need to overthink that or be over analytical. I think we need to trust Megan because this is what she does. And yeah, and she does really excellent work. So
I tend to agree that people will make the jump, but I will admit that I feel like because there's been quite a lot of analysis of that in this group that I've become a little bit more unsure in my opinion that people will make the jump. So
You're talking about understanding trails, the word.
yeah, and you know, there was a lot of debate about the shape of the tree, and there was just a lot of sort of picking at those details. And I agreed even early on with the tree that I feel like people will make the jump and it's not so necessary to be so specific. But now I'm wondering, you know, I guess I'm feeling a little gun shy, but I did in my heart, I think that people will read that as trails and not troils because that doesn't make any sense. So troils are so rare these days. We rarely see them.
Sarah, Carol, Connor?
So yes, what would it amount to change it?
Well, I think we're out of edits, right, Clay?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
We'd
that's
have to
why-
start over if we wanted
Uh-huh.
to, basically,
Oh.
or find more funding.
right, yeah.
I also think, unless we were just trying to finesse this that like we've gone back and forth on this version, that it almost we've tinkered it to death almost.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm I'm happy with it. I like the adjustments of adding the mountains and have no real readability concerns. So, but I am also the simpleton of this process. I don't have any strong opinions. But I would take it. I think it's great.
Sarah?
The changes I think she did were pretty good. The sun and the mountain is a nice little element of flair that I appreciate. Just taking a bit of a wider lens to looking at this, it's a great logo. And I think at this stage, it's going to go to the commission, and maybe just a strategy would be to submit some of the like less than perfect bullet points that we felt with the logo. And it would be up to them, I think, to decide if we want to allocate more funding to tweak it. And maybe that could be one of our recommendations would be to request more funding if it wasn't acceptable to the commission, but otherwise it's pretty good.
Carol, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I agree with what I just heard from.
I guess, speaking to the leaf, when I look at like the blue circle or any of the squares, I wish the outline of the leaf was a little heavier and that the script was a little heavier, because I do feel like Livingston gets buried
Mhm.
in that sign a little bit. And that even just having the outline of the leaf heavier might make it easier to read
Mhm.
as an A.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that would work.
I just have a comment. Does anyone know what the Bozeman Wayfinders actually say?
I don't.
In Montana.
It's like,
It's like the Main Street to Mountains logo.
yeah, but we all would recognize it, right? Like if you saw it, we'd be like, oh yeah, that's it. But none of us can specifically be like, this is the font, or this is like, we know it's, we recognize that it's Bozeman's. We recognize, like, I think we're getting bogged down in the system. It's supposed to be just like a recognizable symbol so people can be like, that's what I'm looking for from far away, right? I don't know, maybe I'm missing that.
No, I think that's a good point, Allison. I think you're right in that people are going to know we're in Livingston. They're going to memorize that this is a trail sign, and they're not going to even read it every time they see it. It's just going to be an instantaneous thing.
Mhm.
So I do think, per Sarah's point, that I think it's pretty darn good. And I think that we could say if people aren't happy with it, because we could, I agree, Jean, that we could go in and we could add that, make it stronger on the outlines and those kinds of things. But the thing I'm concerned about at this point in the process is because the city is looking at doing logos of its own, that we may try to make this perfect and then it's going to have to change anyway. So I feel like it's in a pretty good place to say it works.
So our decision is to, obviously we could, I guess our decision is to whether we want to recommend this to the city commission. And my guess is that what would happen is we would send it to the city manager to get it on the agenda. There may be a staff recommendation, I don't know, or it could go directly to the city commission, but this will go to the city commission if you want it to.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah, I
that
would
the
be comfortable.
recommendation, Clay?
Yeah. Yes, I recommend that.
So you want to make a motion to,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to recommend the Parks and Trails logo to the City Commission as designed.
I'll second.
Carol second?
Mhm.
Any other comment on this from the committee? Tim, you're a member of the public. Do you want to add anything?
Sure. I mean, it's my first look, and I did not think Troyals, so I didn't have a problem with the Leaf as BA. And the other thing that I give, I mean, the Livingston's a little small, but if you're using this as just a waypoint, a wayfinder for people to see this distinct logo, I think it works great. So that's what you want, is something that's clear and that's consistent that people are not going to say, oh yeah, I'm not lost. So I think it looks great.
Thanks. Anything else from people? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of sending this on to the city commission? Oh, Sarah, are you voting or talking?
Sorry,
Are you voting or talking? Sorry.
voting.
Okay, all those in favor say aye or
Aye.
Hey,
I,
opposed? Okay, we will send this to the commission on a unanimous vote. Thanks, everybody.
Gene, one quick question. I know we've talked about this before, but you don't have, there's no sense of timeline in terms of the city's rebranding, right? That was just something that Shannon had brought up at some point.
Actually, I think Mike Cardos had brought it up to me at a meeting, and Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, you've looked at the strategic plan, but last time I looked at it, I didn't see anything in there about that. Maybe it doesn't have to belong in there, this whole rebranding of the city. So I have no idea when that might proceed.
It's not, I don't know if it fits into the strategic plan. I don't know if that's something that's operational, and so it doesn't sit within the commission. It was more about, inclusive workplace and surveys, and I didn't see anything with rebranding.
Yeah, so I don't have an answer on that, Clay, sorry.
That's okay. I just wonder, in terms, if the commission approves it, will we be involved with helping to go forward with producing the signs, or is that on the city, or how does that part work? Or is that a discussion for another day?
Well, I suspect that's where the city recommendation, city staff recommendation might come in. So we could forward this based on our operations, beginning when we originally asked for the money from the commission to go forward with this, to put this specifically on, for example, adopt a trail signs or wayfinding signs. We revised the adopt a trail program with requirements so that we could recognize people with their name and wanted a logo to put on there. We can go forward with that. We could see that the city staff may say they would recommend a delay in adopting until they work out a citywide logo, in which case I'm not sure where that leaves us as far as adopt a trail signs. We could go forward with those without a logo, or with the existing logo, or something else. I really don't know.
Okay, thanks for that.
I know what is going to go into the strategic plan is wayfinding.
Right.
That will happen, like a wayfinding strategy. So just maybe gives us a bit more time before we have to land on something too.
And it is recommended in the Trails and Active Transportation plan to develop wayfinding, so. Anything else from folks on this? Okay, Rachel, did you want to weigh in on this? We just voted unanimously to advance this latest logo to the commission.
Hi guys, there's a little delay on my end. I'm all for it. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. So I'll let you know when I know more, but I will advance this to the city commission.
Okay.
The other couple things are very quick. One is, I don't have a date yet for a meeting before the city commission or before with the city about their communications policy. I asked Faith yesterday if there's a date and there isn't one yet. So that will happen at some point, but does anybody have particular questions they want to raise if they're not going to be there? I mean, this is going to be open to the whole committee. If not, we'll just, we've had some discussion about this already, about how we communicate with the public. There's been some discussion about that by the city commission. Any comments on the communications policy?
No, I think it would be really useful. One of the big unknowns is how does this communications policy, how does it look through the lens of our bylaws? I know we don't want to get into a position where we're spending lots of meetings rewriting our bylaws to fit with the communications policy. And I'm just wondering on whose responsibility that might be. Is that, could we ask staff to tell us how it works within our own bylaws or how it doesn't work within our own bylaws? And then, I think something Dorel pointed out was, besides the discouraged communication, just to elaborate on encouraged communication, and that would fit in with how do we engage with the public. And then, how does it feed into the handbook? And so if we move it out of the communications policy more into the training that might be provided in January, maybe just going over the handbook and questions that can kind of come up with lots of room for engagement there. Engagement just to better understand our role and responsibilities. And I think the last thing for me was to really have this coming from the commission rather than coming from city staff, since we are advisors to the commission. And so I think a lot gets lost through telephone middleman, coming through city staff rather than commission. And a lot of gray areas in there, I think, as a result.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, Carol, go ahead.
That's a good point, because there is, like you said, there's a lot of unknowns and what do we do now? But yeah, so that's a good idea.
And Sarah and Allison, you were at the meeting and spoke, I think Allison, on when they were having this discussion. Where did they leave this aside from doing a meeting with boards in January?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but it sounded to me like they were planning on working with I apologize, I forget her name, but working with the lawyer of the city, Courtney, thank you, to redraft the wording of the document, as well as making a flow chart for communication policies. They also talked about separating out boards that have legal responsibility versus volunteer boards, because they are very different communication policies. And so there was a lot of redrafting, which I think Jarrell and Melissa made a really great list of concerns for redrafting. And then the new draft, I believe, will be presented to the city commission again, but I don't think there was any date of when that might happen.
Okay.
So it could be that revised policy could be submitted to the city commission before we have a training, right? You're not gonna, or are they gonna use a training as, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Because the goal for the training is to be in January for the new city commissioners. And then of course the boards will be invited, but there's no date for that either, as far as I know.
Okay, I'll see if I can get a clarification from Mike Cardos on the process here. So the commission approved our bylaws many years ago. So my inclination is to let those sit because they've been approved.
Yeah, well, and Darrell also made it very clear that the new communication document was in contradiction to our bylaws, and that she brought up the city commission had approved the bylaws, so the process in creating bylaws in the future is going to be revisited, as well as the communication document, so that it follows the bylaws that have already been approved. Right,
Okay.
Sarah?
That's the intent. Yeah.
I'll get clarification from Mike on the process. And we can discuss that in January, I guess, if we need to. But anything else on this communications policy? Okay. So I put the budget discussion in here because after our last meeting, you had asked me to see if either Mike or Shannon or both could attend our January meeting. Mike Cardos said he tentatively could. So I think we should assume that he'll be at our January meeting to talk about the budget. So he did ask for us to let him know what questions we might want him to address when he comes before us. So my suggestion is that over the next few weeks, you just think about what you want him to address, whether, what you want him to address.
Would it be helpful to have like a Google Doc or something that we could all add questions to? Or,
Well, I'd like it, but we can't.
Not alone.
oh, we
because
can't.
It's ex parte communications.
Oh, okay.
And we cannot do that. So I can assume this is administrative if you send me the questions you want me to forward to him to address without a debate going on.
Okay.
But I think that's the best I can do as
Okay.
my understanding. Do you want to do that process or do you want to do something different?
Well, we could have a committee that's not a quorum.
You
But
could, we'd have to notice it. Even if it's,
Oh, we're
I
quorum.
just, my sense is based on this communications policy, that whether it's a quorum or not, we should notice it. If we're doing committee business.
Would it make the most sense for us to email Jean our questions and then she just compile the questions and it's part of the agenda for next meeting so we can all see it ahead of time?
That would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the simplest way to do it, I'd say that's fine. Yeah. If we have to notice meetings that are with two of us or more, it's kind of a bit of a burden to drop that in, so.
And I don't think the questions necessarily have to be included on the agenda. They have to be sent to Mike so he can address them. Right? We could include them as an addendum to the agenda. But we're just asking Mike to address certain things at our meeting in January, right?
Yeah, I just was saying that so that we could all see the list of questions prior to the meeting when you send out the agenda. So if something's missing, we can jot it down. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
gotcha. We can do that. Sarah?
It's time for it. Could we have a 5-minute discussion on kind of just the angle and the position that we would like to take with asking questions? So are we just trying to get clarity on their priorities? You know, there's the $10,000 parks improvement budget every year. Maintenance things. So I think it's worthy for us to have a departure point in which to ask our questions from within the group. I don't know if anyone else would find that useful.
I would.
Yeah.
Are you saying you want 5 minutes right now?
Yeah, or
can-
if there's time in this meeting to do it, I think we do have to.
I think we're fine. So what Mike gave us before, remember, was fairly general. A lot of the time, I think, was spent on either the flagpole or a lagoon, right?
Right.
Something else came up at that meeting. What we didn't get that came up later were the major projects, the capital improvement projects, which some of those we didn't know about. And so one of my questions is, how are those decisions made? Can we be involved or advised of those before they get included in the city budget? But then the question is, because we ultimately will have to decide in March or April, what do we want to recommend to the city for priorities in parks and trails?
Mhm.
So this should be the first meeting we get to think about that.
So, I mean, overall, it would be nice if we could make it a normal beginning of the year that the city manager and ideally Shannon present the budget for the year coming up and what they're thinking about. I'd also ask him, what are his questions for us? Maybe so it's more of a dialogue, and even just presenting the budget as if we've never seen the budget, because we only get to see it kind of once a year, and it'd be helpful just going through it once again for transparency, understanding capital improvement projects versus, standing maintenance improvement, and then the bigger projects that are sitting there and, kind of what they mean. So really it's just going through it and having a discussion. And then I like yours, Jean. I support that, of just how decisions are made and at what point does our committee get to be involved or not, or do we have to wait for a commission to propose a recommendation that we do get involved?
The other big question, of course, will be the Trails and Active Transportation Plan, how those priorities start getting incorporated into the city's budget.
Yeah. And he'll probably not be able to answer that because he won't have seen a draft yet and what the priorities are and how much they, what we're looking at and whatever, but yeah, the process in which those get allocated probably into the strategic plan, because they are big capital projects. A lot of them. Some of them are not,
Right.
but most of them are.
Other thoughts on this meeting with Mike in January?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Clay.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to quickly say, I suspect that I'm probably going to have more questions after they presented the budget. I think that's a great idea because it would be useful for me to just hear that. And then I'm sure I'll have questions that'll come up during that conversation. And I like the idea of making it more of a dialogue if possible.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just have one more question, would be the maintenance piece. I know that that's a big obstacle in parks and trails. And if it's a budget conversation, resources that are being allocated, maybe some of the obstacles that they're facing, or what is the reality that they're looking toward for 2022. And that would help us kind of direct our priorities, as well as maybe we have to have a project that gets creative with how we do maintenance in our parks and trails.
In their discussion on November 30th of the city strategic plan, he did mention, because dedicated funding for parks and trails, or funding for parks and trails, is in the strategic plan. But he was also pretty clear that dedicated funded may require a ballot initiative. And so one question could be, is there any consideration of a ballot initiative for Parks and Trails? That could be tied into the recreation center. So as it has for the last couple of years, so. Anything else from folks on this? Tim, did you have anything to add as a member of the public?
No, but thanks for asking. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we go for, like, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, if you have ideas as this firms up, please send them to me. And I'll try to compile a list to say, here's what the committee would like to hear in your presentation on the budget and Parks and Trails priorities. Okay? The last one is just updates. Let's see. Trails and Active Transportation, they're looking for the latest edits by Friday on the latest chapters. They expect a late January review by committees. I had suggested that maybe a combined meeting with the planning board might be useful, so they're not having to do it twice. I haven't heard back if that's going to happen yet. There will be an online interactive story map for the public to respond to as part of this process. So, Sarah, anything else to update on that?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, questions from anybody on this? Okay. Let's see. And then social and other media, Connor, I didn't know if there was something or anybody else had for social media.
Nothing from me to report. I have been doing nothing with social media. So when we got the whole communication policy implemented, it just sort of like, I don't know what, outside of posted pictures and like meeting notices, not a whole lot that I have. So, and if I end up becoming chair, as we've discussed, I might pass this off to someone else. So I've been shepherding it so poorly, so we might as well.
I will let you know that I got a call from the enterprise reporter, John, is it not Collins? I can't remember. The new guy who's covering, what did you say, Carol?
Is it Sullivan, John Sullivan?
No, it's a new reporter, young guy who took over the city's portion of reporting. Anyways, he is going to do a story tomorrow on Reservoir Park, Allison. Unfortunately, the recommendation we made was buried in the city commission agenda because it was added as an addendum, but the cover agenda was never changed to reflect that that was going to be on there, so nobody could find it. So I pointed him in the right direction. It is part of the packet for the city commission agenda from last week. So I pointed him to that, gave him some background and hope for the best.
Great. Thanks, Jean.
So we'll have that media anyways coming up. So
Connor, one suggestion, Jean. Connor, I have a very unsexy content suggestion for you, maybe for your final social media assignment. I was wondering if the committee could propose some kind of reminder to the community about dog poop pickup this time of year. It seems to be accumulating.
Great idea.
That is something that we can definitely do. It is not sexy, but it is valuable.
Hey, you know, Connor, I think I have something when Alice and I were first starting on Reservoir where I have a picture of a real funny sign about picking up after dog poop. I'm gonna send it to you and you can use it or not.
Any memeable content works for me. So
Okay,
Now I'm curious. I want to see it.
I'll send it to all of you. Make sure you approve. Okay. Let's see. Yep.
Jean, do we just
Yep.
want to update people on Reservoir real quick since they talked about it at the city commission meeting?
Sure.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so it was an addendum at the city commission meeting last week. I spoke. The city staff did not get to meet about our recommendation prior to the city commission meeting. So basically the plan is they're gonna meet. And the city commission will vote on the next steps in January at some point, hopefully. But of course, city staff are very busy with end of year wrap up. So they didn't give a date of when they were gonna meet on the priority. But the city commission is really excited, so that was nice to hear.
And I think there were some positive comments about the work of the committee and the outreach, so that was encouraging.
Mhm.
So, let's see, the Parks and Trails Committee vacancy will be decided next meeting. So they're meeting December 21, and it is on the agenda. This open seat as well as one on the Conservation Board. So that'll be done. John Carroll, that's the reporter. Clay, I have a question. Was there follow-up on No Mo May and the report changes or whatever?
They have not made those changes. I'm so sorry, but I have not done that yet. So
Is that how we left it?
yeah, that I was going to get something to you by the end of the year, I think, but I didn't know if there was a deadline or.
There's a deadline if you want me to include it with my 2021 summary, which is due to the city commission on December 31st.
Okay, I can make those changes before then.
And I would love to attach it.
Yes, that'd be great. So
Okay. And on that, does anybody want to review my summary? They are looking for fairly short summaries from all the boards. I modeled this one the same way I did last year's, but I would love to have other people look at it, make sure I'm not missing anything key or wording things incorrectly.
Happy to help you look at it.
Right? Anybody
I don't
else
mind.
want to?
I don't mind reading through it either.
Okay.
Thanks, Jean,
Anybody-
for writing it.
Okay, anybody else want to see it?
Yeah,
I can
but
look.
you-
I can look through it. That'll be fine.
Mhm.
I mean, I could send it to everyone if you want.
Sure.
Okay,
Well, and I have time to make those updates. I've just made a reminder for next Monday. I'm out of town this week, but
okay.
to the NOMO May.
So the way this report to the commission usually works is we submit them. I usually try to attend the meeting that they're going over these. Last year, there were no questions, didn't really ask me to comment. They just accepted the reports from the board. So that may be what they're going to do now. My goal in this is for them to understand what our action items were and how we handled some of the money they allocated to the committee, like for Reservoir Park, the logo, and even No Mo May, et cetera. And then I want to make it clear why we listen to certain people in the public, i.e. they were recommended to us by city staff, for example. So they get how important our role is in listening to the public on some of these various issues before they cut it all out. So
Yeah,
I'll send that out to you,
good.
probably tomorrow, because I pretty much got it done. And then if you could get back to me within a week, I don't want to deal with this over Christmas. I just soon have it all done, so.
Mhm.
I'll send it out.
Yeah, good.
Any other updates that people want to mention that I didn't include?
I was just going to say that if Connor does take the chair, that I would be willing to consider the idea of doing the social. I mean, I can only, improve on what's being done. No, I'm just kidding.
There is a lot of truth to that statement. So
Well, thanks, Clay. That's good to know going into January.
Yeah.
That's helpful. So, any other updates or comments from the committee?
Just thanks for all your great leadership, Gene. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Clay. You still have me one more week meeting. We usually do the election at the end of the meeting. So
Okay.
I'm not burdening the next chair with trying to run a meeting they didn't set up. It seemed unfair to do it that way, so.
Okay.
So Rachel, this is your last meeting. Anything you want to offer?
Where does the time go?
Right, I agree.
Well, thank you for all you did. I appreciate it. You've been
Of
great.
course.
Tim, we skipped the public comments. Do you have anything you want to add on anything?
Well, other than, I appreciate forwarding on that nomination of the commission, and assuming they don't find any skeletons in my closet, I hope I'm in a good way. The other thing I was going to ask you is that there was a call today from the Montana Access Project that talked about federal funding opportunities for trails, and I don't know if anybody got a chance to sit in on that, but it's a group out of Whitefish led by a woman named Diane Conradi, who's a real mover and shaker in the state when it comes to trails and stuff, and they kind of know where the bodies are buried when it comes to federal funding. And if folks didn't get a chance to sit on it, I could circle back to it and see if they've got a recording of the call, because I was not. But it might be some good fodder for future conversation funding prospects. So.
That'd be great. Anybody else? Okay, well, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you celebrate, to everybody. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
No, I can't make it. Someone else has to.
Oh, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Carol seconded. Okay, great. All those in favor, and have a great holiday, everybody.
Thank you, you
Thank
too.
You.
Right.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
holidays. Happy New Year.
Yeah.